Breaking right now, the K-1 fiancé visa program that allowed the female California terrorist into the United States, now under review by Departments of State and Homeland Security. The K-1 visa program leaving many to wonder if the visa vetting process can catch a terrorist, or even if the government knows what it's doing. Stunning testimony yesterday. Lawmakers grilling federal officials got several different answers to key questions. FBI Director James Comey was asked if Tashfeen Malik was interviewed as part of the process. Director Comey replied that the process requires an interview, but he didn't know if she was actually interviewed. Also yesterday, and also in the Senate, Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, Leon Rodriguez, saying, quote, "We only interview people in the K-1 visa program in cases where there is some issue that needs to be explored as part of the case." Well, also yesterday in the House, State Department Deputy Assistant for Visa Services, Edward Ramatowski, testifying, quote, "All applicable security checks were done for that individual, Ms. Malik." Former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Ambassador John Bolton, is here to go on the record. Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who's on first?
Well, I think they don't really know, and I think that's part of the basic weakness of not just the K-1 visa, but the visa system to begin with. It's not really recognized that the people who are interviewing these visa applicants out in our embassies and consulates around the world tend to be very junior Foreign Service officers who don't want to be doing that job because, rightly or wrongly, I think wrongly, consular affairs is not viewed as a priority at the State Department. It's not the road to achievement. And they're overwhelmed with lines of people coming in. This is not a rigorous process.
I got that, but it really annoys me when the State Department last week pretended like she'd gotten this big security check. That was not true. And then the thing is, you know, that is the message they want to send out to the United States. That is false. Then you've got Leon Rodriguez, Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, said that they only have interviews for this when there is some issue that needs to be explored. Okay, you take one of these young people out of this consulate. Well, how about just Googling her application? You'd see her address. You'd see that she supplied a phony address. I mean, how much more of an issue do you need that maybe there's an issue if someone supplies a phony address? You can do that at a computer terminal.
Well, maybe you can or maybe you can't. Maybe your electricity is not working that day. I mean, this is part of the problem. These are not prosecutors or FBI agents. They're Ph.D. Students who have just joined the Foreign Service.
But they know the Internet. They know how to Google.
And they're in a place that they don't particularly want to be. You know, the problem is they are overwhelmed with visa and immigration applications, 98% of which should be granted because they're in the benefit of the United States. Business people, tourists, people coming for education. It's a small percentage who are the problem. They don't have the capability to identify them.
All right. How can Edward Ramatowski, State Department Deputy Assistant for Visa Services, say yesterday on Capitol Hill at this House hearing all applicable security checks were done for Tashfeen Malik? How can he say that in good faith?
I bet they were. They're inadequate.
Well, no. But wait a second. You're supposed to get an interview if there is any issue, and she had at a minimum. She had a phony address on her application.
Let me tell you.
That's not an issue?
If you're a consular officer sitting there with a line of hundreds of people coming in and you're really rigorously interviewing a lot of these individuals, you know how many people you process a day? A lot lower than the guy next to you who's processing twice as many. Who do you think gets the rewards?
Well, I mean, that's horrible, obviously, but, I'm not even asking at this point for a rigorous interview. I'm asking that you just put the person's address in, just put some of the data from the application into the computer. That takes 30 seconds.
But don't think the terrorists don't know this process. They've watched it. They've tried to get visas. They see how it works. Give you another example. If you treat everybody exactly the same, you're going to miss the terrorists. Now, how many Islamic radical terrorists do you think are trying to get visas in Tokyo? Zip. So the process, the scrutiny that you take there is not what you're going to do in some other country. But that implies that you think some places are more dangerous than others, that some places are more likely to produce terrorists. Just imagine saying that. Try and find a way to say that out loud that won't get you criticized in certain circles.
Ambassador, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And coming